Hello, welcome back. I am the Watcher. I got a great book for you today. Primal Man, another chick publication. Now, I would like to make one correction from my last chick publication video. I did the Crusaders. Well, what I thought was the Crusaders, Operation Budapest. I thought the special operatives in there, that was their name, the Crusaders. Turns out the Crusaders is the name of the line of comics. You know, because they're crusading for good Christian values. Makes me a little concerned about the one called The Prophet, but we'll get to that. I have 18 of these puppies coming in the mail right now. Anyway, so this is technically the Crusaders' Primal Man. Obviously, they dropped that big black outline and they went for more alluring cover art. Now, this is probably my favorite thing by chick publications. And also, it makes me feel a little sorry for some people. And we'll see what I mean about that in a minute. Now, once again, this is a book about Christian beliefs. So if for whatever reason you're sensitive to that, this might not be the video for you. We're going to cover a lot of topics such as evolution, anti-evolution arguments. At no point will it be an attack on religion or the divinity of Christ or anything you might believe. Even if you are religious, it might be counter to some of your beliefs. As well as some survivors of abuse in religious organizations who just don't want to hear that kind of stuff. You might want to come back for our next video. Next week when we'll be doing X Factor. Yeah, a really good comic book. I got this one for free. Someone sent it in the shipping and the story is just hilarious. You're going to love it. But today we're doing Primal Man. So without further ado, let's get to it. Alright, here we are at the good stuff. Now, I'm going to ask my audience for a little help before we get started. So I'm sitting here right now with this tripod sticking up between my legs. You might notice a little camera shaking. I'm trying to figure out how to address this. I have another tripod coming, but if anyone has any ideas for how I can get more stable shots while I do this, a big fun part of this for me is actually looking at the actual comics. That's why I don't do digital reads offline. Even though there's many Golden Age comics, I enjoy reading that way. I know many YouTubers have gotten help from their audience before with advice on stuff like this. So if you enjoy the videos and you think you know how I can improve, I would be happy to know. Now, the first thing you might notice about this comic itself is it does look a little worn down, especially right here. This comic is near mint. That is from the copying. Once again, like the last one, it looks like they had some old comics and they scanned them. Now, let's start with the cover art. The cover art's why I bought this. I mean, look at you got this mammoth here, beautifully drawn mammoth. I believe it's a mammoth, not a mastodon. And he's charging this caveman, and I mean, come on, how could you not want? I knew whatever was in here was going to be gold. Also, if you get closer, you can actually see grain. This was a painting. This was a acrylic painting. And, you know, I wonder what happened to the original. And the back, like the other one, is just a list of the other comics. You can see many of the ones I've ordered for the channel. I'll go over them. I believe Scarface, The Exorcist, The Ark, of course, The Gift. I believe I got Sabotage, The Enchanter, King of Kings, The Betrayal, The Prophet, The Four Horsemen. I'm pretty sure that's all the ones I ordered. Once again, check publications. Here's their information if you'd like to get some stuff from them. Now let's open up and get inside. Now, as soon as you open it, you start off with this great cartoon. Born, no pictures. Next time I'm using chick tracks. And pretty much that's these little pamphlets that I told you about before that I do plan to cover at some point. I'm kind of hoping they're going to send me a bunch more free ones now that I bought more comics. And I'd like to collect as many as possible before I do a video. Now, one more thing I'd like to talk to you about before we get started on the comic itself. There's a special thanks here to Kent Hovid. And I'm very happy that's in here because I wanted to tell you to go look at Kent. You know, if you're into young earth creationism, or if you're not and you just want to learn about it, great place to go. There's also channels like Answers in Genesis. But I'm also going to recommend Aaron Raw. Yes, that's right. He has an entire series on evolution of man, laying it out from the beginning to current day. It's a very long series. And he actually has a lot of videos where he debates with Kent and he debates with Answers in Genesis and other young earth creationist channels. Now, why I think this is important, even if you are a Christian and you are a young earth creationist, is the biggest problem I've seen for you guys trying to argue evolution is you're using stuff from this book that was published in the 70s. If you want to argue the facts against the science, you have to argue from their perspective. Just like how often people who use the Bible to argue will bring the perspective back to the Bible if people try to use facts or science. So if you truly want to understand what the opposition is saying, it's something you should do, especially with terminology, because I'll hear things like, we aren't monkeys, fish, just random things. How can man have evolved from apes? And all those, if you learn evolution, you learn, well, we are apes, we are still technically monkeys. A lot of the things we say aren't actual classifications of things. Like, there's no fish. There's no scientific classification for fish, which, again, you want to try to understand that, go watch Aaron Ra's videos. Aaron Ra or Kent, either one's good. I really enjoy watching both their videos and then watching the videos of them arguing. But I'm the kind of person that when there's a major issue and disagreement, I like to hear both sides of the argument before I decide how I feel about something. Something that sadly is not very common nowadays. And the reason I do that is because if I feel passionately enough, I want to discuss it with you. I want to be on the same page. I want to understand what you think, why you think that way. Not only in case I'm wrong, but so I can better help you and we can help each other come to a healthy understanding and mutual respect for each other. That's what debate is about, to me at least. So, let's get into the comic. Now, first you'll notice it's kind of printed on this cheap, pulpy paper. Despite the cover being this very strong, resilient material. The art is really good. I feel the art is beautiful. It's part of what kept me into this. So you start out with Borg. He big hunter. Borg good hunter. He have big peepee. He protect tribe. Everyone's cheering for him. They're celebrating because Borg just killed, it looks like a deer. You can kind of barely see his horn there. Now this guy avoids drawing animals a lot, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. I think he didn't like drawing animals, quite frankly. And when they're sitting there, boom, someone threw a spear at him, and they're like, look, we go home now. These other cavemen, this guy's face actually looks a lot like Gargantus from the Iron Man video I just did. What is it with people back then drawing cavemen like that? Anyway, so he's jumping out, he's like, food is ours. And our hero cavemen are like, no, kill them. There is too many of them. Let them have food. Let's get away. They shuffle off. So here's a woman, and she's like, look, they come, but they don't have food. They're all complaining about being hungry and cold. And now this scene right here is beautiful. It looks like there was a little water damage to the original. You can see right here with this blue. But I mean, this is a lot better than than the last chick publication I read, where a lot of the night scenes you couldn't see. There's also this weird red mark going over it. So once again, it's like someone had a pen and they copied from that. You'll see a lot of that in this book, such as here. It looks like there's a lot of damage, but this has literally been sitting in a sleeve in my comic book collection since I got it and read it the first time. Other than when I got it out the other day to reread it to make this video, because it had been a few years, and I wanted to make sure I was sharp for you guys. So, after that, we go to this page here. Throwing stuff, this woman. She's like, what is it? Mammoth, run! Oh, I trip. Oh, look, her ankle's folding. That just looks painful. like you feel that. You look at that, you feel that. And that's good art. So you can notice the mammoth, you got part of his face here. You got this upper shot, which I actually really like. Get him away from me. I'll try. Run home. Get Borg. Hurry. I wonder why they named him Borg. That's kind of more of a robot name. And here you can see part of the mammoth in the foot. Now, while I think this is good to show like scale, it makes him look, oh, he's so big he can't fit in the panel. I think the guy didn't want to draw an entire mammoth, because at no point does he. So you have the chick running, and the other one crawls in the rock, and he's doing some questionably sus things with his nose. She runs up, gets bored, they go back. You can't even tell there's a mammoth there. I think that's why they put the roar. Because he looked like just a lump. You know, they drew as little of this guy as possible. And that's what I was talking about earlier, where I'm like, I don't think this guy likes drawing animals too much. So next, you know, Borg runs up. He's trying to defeat this big boy. And when I got to this point in the comic, I'm like, this is freaking amazing. This action, this... How does this tie into Christianity? Some of the art does look like it starts to drop off a bit. Not even really the art, the coloring seems to change. It's weird. I feel like this was the kind of stuff that was drawn over a long period of time. Whenever I draw things over long periods of time, there's certain inconsistencies that just happen. Like if you spend weeks between two drawings, you're going to forget to put in a rock, or your shading's going to be a little different. Something's going to change in how you do it, you know? Hell, just your mood could change how the art looks. Well, anyway, so the mammoth, it gets stuck. It chases him to this fiery cliff, which I don't know why. Maybe it's a volcano? And Borg falls in. They're like, Borg die? Save Borg! We can't. Oh. Borg fall to Borg death. Borg actually get frozen, wake up thousands years in future, find wife at museum. She on display. No, that doesn't happen. I just ripped off Futurama for that joke. And you see that Borg, boom, he lands in a net. He's safe. This was a movie. This guy, this Dr. Venture dress guy, he's yelling cut. This caveman, you know, he's just a guy in makeup. He's talking to some chick. And then you see the director. Once again, Dr. Venture dressed. You can tell when this came out. Just look at that ascot. Look at those colors. Look at that belt. This was drawn in 1976. You know, and this is what I love about these Christian comics, is they're still printing these old comics, which is great, because this really old art, which is beautiful art, is being preserved. But it's also like, you guys didn't feel the need to make more comics. Which, with some Christian lessons, you don't need to. Like, if you're teaching the story of Exodus, if you're teaching lessons of Jesus, you can just straight use what he said and put it in a book. But this wants to argue evolution. And some of the arguments are really outdated. And the thing is, you'll still hear these arguments used today by young earth creationists. And that's why I say, like, if you want to understand, you need to see both sides, because you can't argue something from 70 years ago. Especially, like, a lot of the corrections they're going to talk about, like Piltdown, man, science corrected itself on that. Someone claimed something, they independently checked it several times, and eventually came to the conclusion that, hey, there's something sus about this. I mean, Piltdown Man is one of the biggest frauds in scientific history, that is for sure. So these guys are talking. There's like, you did great. This is what your caveman actually looks like, you know. Just this beautiful freaking chat of a dude. And they're talking to this doctor who is who they're consulting for the facts on how stuff was back then, because they're trying to make a scientifically accurate movie. So he's taking them and he's saying, I want you guys to meet all the wheels on this production. Even the big gun from the International Geographic Commission is with us. So now they're meeting the famous doctor, and you have this weird scene with the oranges, which seems like something out of the pamphlets you get around here for the colleges. The area I live in, California, is very heavy agriculture, and you know, pretty much they train you to grow up and you either going to do oranges or cows. So then they meet Dr. Lind. Dr. Lind, are you a physician? No, I'm Dr. Flinlinson. I'm an anthropologist. Which, they do not study ants. They study people. Culture. So they're talking about, oh, what a smart guy this doctor is. And then, this guy's like, may I be blunt? Of course, Dr. Lind. I believe evolution is one of the cruelest hoaxes ever invented. And they're like, oh, what the? Hey, who is this Joker? He's not the Joker. The Joker's not going to be in here. Batman's not going to be in here. This isn't that kind of comic. So they start arguing about evolution. And not even really arguing, just mocking him. Like, here. They're like, Dr. Lind, you don't believe that God created the universe, do you? Yes, I do. I try to make it as obnoxious as possible. That's how they write it. I bet he even believes in Mickey Mouse and that weird little old tooth fairy. And this is a thing you'll see a lot. They'll tell you, like, if you believe God created the universe, people are going to mock you and laugh at you. I've never encountered that really myself. Too much. I have when they try to interject themselves in like scientific discussions or groups where people are not religious. But at least in my life, people are a little more respectful than that of your beliefs. I've seen more people laughed at for believing in evolution, honestly. But once again, that might just be where I live. And honestly, people don't laugh at each other too much. They say it, they might yell at each other, and then they just ignore each other and walk off. Neither side listens to the other or learns anything or changes their point of view. I don't think that's a good way to live myself. So after mocking him, they're like, Dr. Lind, how many qualified scientists believe in this concept? 2, or are there 3 guys? The organization alone has over 600 members with master degrees and doctorates in various fields of science. And you'll see a lot of citations like this. Creation Research Society. And this is true. The thing you'll often get, though, is you'll have people who are, like, talking about the validity of evolution. And then they'll have a degree in a non-applicable area. I can't think of anyone by name, and I wouldn't really want to call anyone out. But the first person that comes to mind is actually UFO research. There's that little old guy. He was in that UFO show, and he always wore, like, the bomber jacket with the patches, like he had done something in the military. And then he went on to be on Ancient Aliens. And they're always toting Bill. His name was Bill. And they're always toting how Bill was a doctor, and he's this great learned guy. So you should believe him when he talks about aliens. His doctorate was in medieval literature. Tell me how that at all is applicable. Tell me how that justifies him wearing a bomber jacket and trying to pseudo look like he's in the military. I'm not saying he did stolen valor, but he got as close as he could to make you think, hey, I'm an authority. He pulled all the tricks to try to make you think he was an authority on what he was talking about. And he's just a loony old man trying to sell a book. I like this little guy here, this little gremlin looking dude. If that's the case, then why don't more professors teach the theory? Many are afraid to challenge evolution for fear of losing their jobs, or getting kind of reaction given to me by your most learned colleagues. Now this just isn't true. There's actually a very famous Christian named Clint. He has a channel here on YouTube called Clint's Reptile Room. I absolutely love his channel. He is a deeply religious man, and he believes in evolution, and he's a scientist. I know to a lot of Christian people, to them belief is seeing. If you cannot see the animal change, it's not the same. And a tadpole turning into a frog is not the same to them. Fossil evidence is not the same to them. Once again, though, I'm getting a little too tangential. Let's get back to the story. So they're just going around arguing about it. They're really mocking him. How the devil did you become a fanatic? The devil had nothing to do with it. Let's pray and ask God to remove that loudmouth. Okay. Now, I thought these two guys were making fun of him. They start praying, Father, we have a problem. Yes, Lord. Hey, come on there. What are they up to, he thinks. And he goes and confronts them. He's like, no, we're actually praying for you, Dr. Lind. That guy, he's annoying. We're Christians, Tommy. This guy's like, what a bummer. I thought we'd go swimming tonight with some chicks. Now I find you guys are ready for the funny farm? And again, I've never met people who are like this to someone just because they were Christian. I don't really go out to attack people though, and I don't hang out with people like that. So maybe that's why I don't see it too much. So he takes him to his research area. And then that doctor they don't like gets a call. Look at him, he's like, well, that meeting was canceled. I can't get into New York tonight unless I grab a flight right away. Okay, I'll be there. Alright, Dexter. Oh, here we go. Dexter, can you drive me to the LA airport right now? Yeah, but what about Dr. Lind? That creep is going to brainwash Frank Conley. Frank, now don't listen to their propaganda. It's nothing but garbage. You know, I'll take it with a grain of salt. And his little mustache. Good, I'll call you from New York. And see, these guys are like, thank you, Lord. We prayed for that, and it happened. We prayed that we didn't want to hear any more from this guy, and he's leaving. And I'll leave that up to you. Was that God's work? Someone say his hand is in all things. So they go to this gentleman. I was saying our database has all the latest photos and articles proving evolution. We have replicas of every known fossil from ape to man. You'll notice this chart, the skull, the data of the species, and his title. And they have it really fuzzed over. They just have the sloping. A very interesting thing about evolution recently is the ancestor we shared with chimps, they now believe might have been primarily bipedal. So what they think currently, at least from my understanding from what I've seen, is that when chimps and humans were the same species, we evolved to being bipedal, and then there was a split, and some of them went sticking on all fours, being knuckle crawlers, and some of us stayed bipedal, and the ones that didn't became chimps, and the ones that did became the hominin species, which would be very fascinating if that's true. Being our one of those weird back and forth in evolution, like whales having hooves and being on land and then going back to the water. Which some people say they can't go back to land. You'll hear in Aaron Ra's videos a lot, he'll say, once you lose something through evolution, you can't get it back. Which, like my hand, like if we started swimming and my hand became a flipper and then my bones like degraded over time, they would say you can't get a hand back. But if you cannot get new limbs through evolution, how did people get hands to begin with? How did we get the limbs to begin with? You know, something did grow over time. This is why I say to be open about everyone's argument, because no matter what you hear, you're going to hear stuff you don't like. And I don't think you can always accept everything you hear if it doesn't make sense to you. You got to figure out how to make it make sense, and if you can't, I wouldn't call it a fact. So they're sitting there, they're bragging about their fossil collection. And this guy's like, before you is proof positive that evolution is fact. Some jawbones. And, you know, Dr. Lind, he's like, this is very impressive. Now let's hear what you have to say about it, Dr. Lind. This is what I say, by the way, this book for kids got boring a long time ago. They say teens and young adults, but, you know, it got boring. And this is part's funny. They bring up this old drawing of Darwin, the monkey Darwin, and he's like, oh, you better not be a dick about it. You better not do stuff like this cartoon, this mean cartoon here. Which is funny. They're like, yeah, this cartoon's mean, so they can use it and make fun of them. You know, it's like, oh, you shouldn't do that. That's bad. But they're only telling you so they can get away with it, right? It's hilarious. Mr. Conley, let's look at this from a scientific view. May I ask some rather strong questions? By all means, everything stands or falls on this evidence. You know, of course, that Mr. Leakey's discovery makes that chart obsolete. Time, November 10th, 1975, page 93. That's what I mean by this book is obviously old, because they have a lot of these asterisks and sources, and some of them are newer. Some of them are from websites you'll tell were added later on, especially the one associated with Kent Holvin's ministry and his website. Which, by the way, I'd love to go to that art museum. You know who does have a good video of that museum is Gut Sick Gibbon. And if you don't like hearing cynical views of anti-evolutionist ideas or of Christianity, I don't really recommend her channel. But if you're fine with that, I think she has a great channel that's very informative, and I really do enjoy it. Referencing a lot of other YouTubers in this video. I'm going to have to make sure to give them the credit where it's due. Yeah, that's right. I live in YouTube. Oh, look, they got a Stegosaurus here for some reason. How could man evolve from Australopithecus if man was already here 1 million years before them? And you have another asterisk here where you can look up the information they're talking about. I'm not going to sit here and argue these points to you and keep telling you which ones are valid and which ones aren't. I respect you that if this interests you to go out there and research it yourself. This is not a research channel. This is not a history channel. This is simply about art and the information provided in the art. There's a lot of channels like Comic Tropes and whatnot where they would go into that. Well, they want to do this comic. But there's lots of places where they cover history and where they argue things like this much better. I might give my opinion, but that's just because I'm mouthy. Dexter, I've got 10 minutes before loading. I'll call Conley and see how he's making out. He's probably gotten rid of them by now. Hi, Frank. How's it going? His first question made me look like a fool. I can't handle him. You get back here, and I mean right now, or you can kiss your TV series goodbye. Click. He's like, what's wrong? He's got to Frank. Our whole TV series is in jeopardy. Dexter, I've got to call New York and cancel this trip, then go back to the studio. So he's sitting there. He's hitting almost some more of those facts. They're talking about how some consensus was made about these bones that disappeared during World War II. Unfortunately, a lot of fossils of a lot of species were lost during World War II. A lot of scientific progress was halted by World War II, which is weird because it also led to a lot of the progress that shaped our modern world. Now they're talking about Peking man, and they're talking about that one where where they thought it was a new species of man, but it was a tooth from a peccary, or as they put here, a tooth of an extinct pig, which a peccary is technically not a pig, but whatever. I believe the pigs and peccaries broke off before either of them were classified that way. Again, though, I'm not a evolutionist. I don't know this stuff. I definitely should freshen up on it more. You know, I often like listening to the Aaron Raw video on the evolution of man while I'm going to sleep. Oh, so this guy, he's leaving his car with his mom. He's like, you be careful, no scratches. Sydney, what could happen? You shouldn't worry. I'm a good driver. Have a good trip. I'll be back on Thursday. I'll call you tonight from Chicago. I'll be waiting, Sydney. Bye-bye. Remember, ma, no scratches. Now, this guy, he's pissed off. He's trying to get on the phone. He's yelling at... Apparently, you can just boss directors around when they work for you. He's like, Dexter, go get my bags. He's like, well, if I can't, they're going to be flown back, which to me means I ain't hurrying. Surely Neanderthal man proves that man evolved from apes. Their brains were 13% larger than the average modern man. But no reputable scientist thinks it's a missing link, which is true. We think it was a different species of hominin. Although there is some evidence from crossbreeding in our genetic makeup, so maybe. No, I'm not sure. If you breed with a species and your DNA gets in that species and that species evolves into something, does that count as your species evolving into it? Your genetic markers did contribute to it. That's a very interesting train of thought, which I'm going to investigate more in my free time. Alright, so these guys, they're trying to get out in a hurry. And that woman, they just suddenly drew her horrifying. Look out, you idiot. You're backing into Sydney's car. Beep, beep. And here they're talking about Lucy. And here we go. And now they're talking... Now they're talking about Homo erectus, one of the most unfortunately named things in all scientific literature. We know that Homo erectus was made up from the skull cap of a gibbon, large ape, and a human thigh bone. I don't know why they put large ape in there. I guess maybe they thought the readers wouldn't know what a gibbon is. I think a lot of people that would be interested in this, at face value, they would just call it a monkey. You know, most people, religious or not, just call anything that looks like a man but is furry a monkey. Here's another one by Kent Holven. Oh, seminar number 3. So this is actually referencing one of his videos you can go and watch. You can also watch the rebuttals. And then there's rebuttals to the rebuttals. Because, you know, Aaron and Kent, they argue all the time. It's hilarious. And now they're talking about problems with carbon dating, which there is a few issues, but that's why it's not the only thing used and why you take multiple samples. How could you possibly question the reliability of carbon-14, potassium-argon, and uranium-lead method or other radiometric methods? Let's share some little-known facts. Please do. And here they talk about this one time, shells from living snails were carbon dated from being 27,000 years old. They were still alive? They were still alive. Man, those are some old snails. Lava from Mount St. Helens was dated by potassium-argon method. It ranged from 340,000 to 3 million years old. Just a bunch of little quips like this. And this guy, he starts getting angry with him. He's like, the only one who really knows the universe is the one who created it. The Bible calls him Jesus. Keep this scientific or else I'll ask you to leave. And he gets mad just because he brought up Jesus. Back to B-Plot. B-Plot crashes into their car. They're trying to throw money at her. She's beating the crap out of them. You'll pay for this, you devils. Hey, you stupid old fool, stop it. Hey, lady, here's 2,000. That should fix it. She's on her ass. She's covered in money. You knocked me down, you animals. You slipped, lady. Come on, Dexter. And they don't really show what happened, so like that's up to the reader. And she's like, stop them! Help! Police! She's crazy. Step on it. They're skidding out. A cop sees it. I don't know why he's wearing a motorcycle helmet when he's in a car, but he is. Did you see that? Call for backup. Let's follow that blue car. Yeah, they're in trouble because, you know what? They don't respect the divinity of Christ. Here we go. Mr. Crowley, in the scene where Borg is killed, why didn't you use a dinosaur? He's laughing at him, saying that doesn't work. Dinosaurs died out millions of years before men, which, again, you need to understand evolution if you want to argue this stuff, because birds are a type of dinosaur. The non-avian dinosaurs died out. Technically, they're still dinosaurs. And I know it's boggling. It makes my brain angry and frustrated because I'm just like, it makes me feel like there's no facts in the world. People don't tell you facts; they tell you from their experience and what they think is true. And that includes me. Don't take anything I say at face value. Go out there and research it for yourself if you choose to have an opinion on it. Yeah, you know, I would much rather hear what you have to say than hear you respouting what I've said. Anyways, back to the dinosaurs. Because, Dr. Lind, it's scientific fact that dinosaurs died off 70 million years ago. Say that man lived in a time of dinosaurs would be totally unscientific and the height of foolishness. Then we better not tell him. Tell him what? There's plenty of evidence of dinosaurs and man living together, right? Now they get into some good stuff. Man, am I excited for this next part. They talk about this supposed plesiosaur that washed up, which if it's the one I remember, it was a basking shark. They talk about Mokele and Bimbe. Mokele and Bimbe, one of the biggest frauds in cryptozoology. Now, Dr. Polaris, another YouTuber, has a really great video on all the African dinosaur cryptids, which are some of my favorites. And he takes the stance that it's pretty racist. And when I first heard it, I'm like, how is it racist that they have dinosaurs? And then once I watch his videos, I'm like, oh, I get it. Pretty much it's like, it's uncivilized, it's wild, so of course they're going to have dinosaurs because that's how backwards the place is, you know. I'm not explaining it quite as well as Dr. Polaris. I definitely recommend checking out his videos if you want more information on things like Mokele and Mbembe. I love Mokele and Mbembe. I love it more than the Ropin, which is that glowing, light-up pterosaur in Papua New Guinea. I think it's just a name, though. It's really fun to say. Mokele and Mbembe! I've literally just yelled that randomly. So, now these cops are harassing Dexter and the other guy. Drawn kind of shitty there. This woman, that's them! Those are the animals! I'll never forget their evil faces! Yeah, honestly, she seems like the animal. She's freaking out, dude. Like, she wants to beat them up. The cops all having to hold her back. Hello, Frank. This is Finlayson. Where in blazes are you? Would you believe it? Dexter and I are in jail. Could you come to the sheriff's substation in Beverly Hills and bail us out? He's like, no. And then he hangs up on him. And they're talking more, you know, about their personal beliefs. I think these men actually have, other than laughing at each other, a pretty mature conversation. So this guy, he realizes, I'm just going to read it here. Then I need Jesus. What do I do, Tim? I don't know how to pray. And pretty much they convert him. There's even some nice Bible quotes here. You know, he realizes pretty much he feels guilt about what he's doing. He's like, I can't lie to people. I have to uphold the Bible. And he goes, he's like, I don't understand. Frank paid for it, didn't he? No, Dexter. Those two idiots paid for it. Ha 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 ha. So you get to the end, he's like, I've listened to both sides. I'm convinced you gentlemen are right. There is no question in my mind, but he didn't say what it is. He talks about how he's going to keep making these evolution films, quote unquote, even though it's brainwashing and damaging these kids. Many will lose their souls because of these films. I know. Then what in heaven's name would possess you to do such a thing? You gentlemen serve your God, and I, in turn, will serve mine. Who is your God? His name is money, and I need all I can get. You know, some would argue that people on both sides of this argument are serving their God, and by their God, I mean money. And then it ends with this little bump at the end. The Bible calls Satan the father of liars. Can it be he wants you to spend an eternity with him? Frank made his decision. He will die in his sins. Unfortunately, many will go along with him. Tommy had to face a tough decision. Because he received Jesus as his Lord and Savior, now he will reign with Christ when he returns to earth. Which I'm surprised that's actually an accurate description of Revelation. No one turns naked and floats up to the sky. Again, that was invented by one woman who thought she was Christ. And for some reason it stuck around and became a big part of Christian belief, and people are like, oh, it's in the Bible. No, it's not. It's actually not in the Bible at all. But people often say stuff that's not in the Bible. Like dinosaurs. Anyways, this has been a great book. I really enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it too, and you didn't find my video too offensive. Again, I have my own beliefs, as I'm sure you do, and I would much rather be in a world where we can respectfully discuss our differences and our ideas. I hope you enjoyed my presentation on this, just as I would enjoy hearing what you have to say about it. So without any further ado, let's get back to the final thoughts. So as for my final thoughts, Primal Man is the kind of entertainment that makes me feel sorry for Christian kids. And let me say what I mean by that. I knew a lot of Christian kids growing up who their households were a little more repressive. They couldn't watch TV. They couldn't do a lot of things the other kids did. They couldn't play with a lot of the toys, comics. They couldn't do a lot of stuff other kids were doing because it was demonic or because it had bad influences for them or something that went outside their parents' belief system. With stuff like this, this is why I feel sorry, because the type of entertainment they do get is, honestly, it's garbage a lot of times, and they have to clutch onto that, like VeggieTales. Gonna get some flack for that. Not a fan of VeggieTales. Now, I think there is good Christian programming out there, like Ness Family Entertainment. They made a beautiful series of cartoons. Or there's an animated, what is it? Joseph the Prince of Egypt. Still one of my favorite animated movies to this day. It's beautiful. It might be the height of Christian children entertainment. This, on the other hand, is just another Bible lesson. Disguised. It looks like this really cool caveman story, you know? And you open it up, and after just a few pages, they drop that, and it's literally just these old dudes lecturing you about why the story is wrong. Very wordy book. It's wordy as hell. And the thing is, a lot of the viewpoints might not even be their parents' viewpoints. The thing about young earth creationism, some people believe it, some people don't, but the majority of Christians don't actually believe it. I understand the majority of Christians don't put too much thought into that. They go with the lessons that are taught to them in the Bible, in their church, the things they think they need to survive and to achieve salvation. So then you get stuff like this and like, oh, well, this is pro-Bible. And you'll have people just go like, oh, that's pro-Bible, I'll buy that one. Give it to their kids, they don't know what they're hearing. And they're introduced to more extremist views that even a lot of Christians don't accept. There's actually a lot of Christian scientists out there who are things like evolutionist, geologist, lots of things that deny things like Noah's flood actually happening, accept the age of the earth, who accept technology of our planet, the evolution of species, and they see it more as God's instrument than anything. I mean, honestly, in my opinion, God is imperceivable to us. Whatever he does is beyond our understanding, so to think that everything could be done in 7,000 years and we're going to understand exactly how it is. As for power scaling, no one in here could beat Captain Planet. I mean, the director and that one dude, they couldn't even beat that old woman. She totally had them had by the end of it. No contest was Captain Planet. In fact, the Planeteers themselves could probably handle these people without even summoning Captain Planet, which I believe is a first in these reviews. Now, if you've made it to the end of my video, thank you. You know, this channel, it's growing. I will not ask you to do this very often because I'm annoyed to hell by it. Every single time you start a video, they're like and subscribe. You know what to do if you want to do it. If you do it, I greatly appreciate you. I'm really excited to bring you my next story, and I can't wait to see you there. Well, anyways, till next time, I've been the Watcher, and God bless. I got a better, more stable tripod. This is what my last one was on. I thought it'd be a good idea when I first got it, but this noodle neck, it sucks. It's on the screw, so you can only get it so tight. You try to do it sideways, it slowly unscrews it. Terrible. Garbage. New tripod, got cheap because it just has a clip. Best clip I've ever had. My one before noodle neck had something like this. It was just like a bike thing attached to one. It was actually the same tripod, just different head. But I took the light from the old one and I had to find... This is from a mattress. And this is from, I don't know, something I took apart a long time ago. But I had to make this mount for it, but it's awesome now. My videos are going to look so much better. No more like